Well, the flashing of screens is starting to slow down. I think we still have some folks logging in to join us, but we'll get started. As a reminder, please try to mute yourselves or put yourself on mute when you are not speaking. It helps for general audio of everyone on the call. But we do welcome you to start your video if you want to be on video tonight for tonight's meeting. It's always nice to see faces, obviously not a requirement. I do want to note that we are recording this session so that folks that aren't able to join us this evening can watch a different day. And just before I turn it over to my colleagues Sam and Dan to give a welcome, just a couple other housekeeping things. The front end of this meeting is presentation, so we have about 20 minutes of presentation to walk through, and then we will leave the remainder of the meeting, about an hour or so, for questions and discussion. There's a couple ways that you can provide a comment or ask questions, which is even as the meeting is going on, you can place a comment in chat. You go to the two fields, select everybody and chat. We've had in previous meetings that for some reason some folks can only chat me privately. The permission for everybody to chat everybody is on, so we're not quite sure why that's happening, but just be assured that I will get to your question equally as others that are able to chat everybody. When we get to the end, we'll also take raised hands, and you can access the raised hand function by hovering over your name and selecting the hand, or by going to the bottom of the screen by the plus symbol where there's reactions, and that's at the top. So with that, Sam, Dan, would you like to give a welcome to the group?
Absolutely. Thank you, Sophia. Good evening, everybody. I'm Sam O'Connell, and I work with Dan Solar. He's my counterpart at Hennepin County. I'm at the Met Council, and we're both very happy to have you here. Looking forward to your thoughts and comments when we get to some of our discussion. So our purpose tonight is to share with you a little bit of the background of our project, talk a little bit about where we are with some of the potential routes, and share a little bit of where we're going next with it. And really tonight is for you to ask us questions, to provide your thoughts, give us your best thoughts. We really want to hear it. That's what's going to make this project the best that it can be. We do have other staff, both from the council and Hennepin County, also joining us tonight, and they're also listening to your thoughts, your questions, and recording your feedback as well. So just want to say thank you for joining us. Thank you for your time. We know that there are a lot of competing interests right now, so for you to spend some time with us, we definitely value that, and we want to maximize that value for you tonight. So with that, I'm going to kick it over to Dan Solar, who's going to say a quick hello as well.
Thanks, Sam, and so good to have you folks here with us tonight. My name is Dan Solar. I work for Hennepin County Public Works. I've been working on the Blue Line extension for about the last 5 or 6 years, and happy to continue to move this project forward and to work on it. We're excited about the direction that we're taking now. We're excited about continuing to advance this important project in this segment of Hennepin County, but we've got some challenges in front of us. While we had worked through a lot of issues advancing the previous alignment, in some ways we're way back to the beginning again. And so we have resolve to get there, but at the same time, we know that there's a lot of pieces we're going to have to work on, and we can use your help to do that. So I thank people for taking their time this evening. I saw some familiar names on the list. I see Terry Parks. Hi, Terry. I see you. Haven't seen you in a long time, and there's a lot of people I'm excited to see and hear from as we continue to work on this project moving forward. So we'll be here for questions. Sam and I will be as we finish the presentation, and as always, look forward to interacting with everyone.
Thank you, Dan and Sam. To get into today's topics, I will go a little bit over a little bit of project history as well as timeline in 2021, so everybody knows what to expect. Nick, my colleague Nick, will kick it off and go through the proposed route options, and then we'll open it up as we previously discussed. So as many of you know that have been with us for a long time on this project, this is an example of our previous project alignment. And basically everything that's in yellow is the part that we needed our freight rail carrier cooperation with to build on their property. It's something that we couldn't force. We had to come to an agreement. And we, after kind of many years of trying to budge the needle and get agreement, in August of last year of 2020, project partners determined it was time to move forward and seek other solutions that did not use basically this yellow portion of the corridor. So we had to adjust from there. And to get there, we created a set of project principles working with our project partners to help kind of shape our steps forward. We'll kind of look at these right now. So some of it is, kind of fundamental to our project itself, like trying to maintain the mode and trying to maintain as much of the previous alignment as possible, as well as, improving our transportation investment by thinking about travel time and reaching riders and doing all those things. One of the unique opportunities we have too is that with this, you don't often go have a second look at a regional investment like this. So we hope to, with this work, to reach even more people and destinations than we did before, and really reach out to those folks that choose transit. Our termini are also wanting to remain the same, so connecting to Target Field as well as Oak Grove in Brooklyn Park, and trying to serve our corridor cities that were part of our previous alignment as much as possible. We also have new factors in the world since we initially kind of started this project, which we have a great BRT transit investments, and so thinking about how you complement our existing and planned network. And then honoring what we've heard in the community about minimizing impacts, as well as really creating a transit-focused lifestyle and all those connections that people have to get to our stations. We also understand that engagement is critical for this project. And so in the project principles itself, we have a set of engagement principles to really show the community our commitment to being together as we move through steps. And with the beginning of that is really honoring and building upon the work that we've done with community, both in terms of the past project and as well as Hennepin County's work in other areas. We also want to tailor our engagement and really kind of throughout the year adjust as needed. It's important that we reach all voices and not just the loudest. So thinking about ways that we reach all the folks that live in the corridor. And back to that, adjusting strategies to make sure that we are doing so. So what does 2021 look like? Our goal by the end of the year is to select a community-supported alignment. Tonight, we're going to walk through our initial route suggestions, but we understand that we have a lot more work to do with the community before I think a lot of folks in the room would say, yep, that's what we're going to do and adopt it. So we'll begin to answer questions, but there'll be a lot more that we'll do in the future. We really have to start actually analyzing the routes themselves, placing stations, advancing our engineering. So kind of I have a couple slides that help us talk about what that looks like throughout this year. So as we pivoted the project, the project principles became kind of our foundation document. From that, project staff began to do this initial scope, and that what you're going to see tonight. So we're here. We have some options based off of our initial screening criteria and some early community feedback about desired destinations and other valuable inputs. We need to keep working to refine those routes. And we need to bring out to all of you refined options based on the project criteria, and more work, as well as getting to that recommended route. So throughout this year, we'll have information available at various points specific for specific areas of the project. But we also want community to know what to anticipate, right? Because some folks can come to a meeting every other day, others want to just kind of check in as needed. So we're in the tier 1 initial screening where we've released these route options. We're wanting to just start that conversation and broaden that to as many people as possible. Kind of next steps is to bring all of those questions together with our project criteria, additional engineering work, at preliminary station locations. We're gathering feedback right now on desired locations, and we'll be analyzing that further so that we have kind of a draft analysis of the routes. And from that, then going to a draft final report with a recommended route for comment that we can work through forward. And then we still have a lot of work to do. 2021 is not the end of the conversation. And so by the end of the year, we will have conceptual engineering, including station locations for all the segments. You'll see as Nick goes through it. We have some stuff from their previous work that we're pushing forward, but at some locations we have to begin that conversation overall. And then, from that, we still have to identify our environmental path and do the environmental work itself, as well as advance our engineering work so that it is construction ready. So we have a ways to go. And this year is really to set the fundamentals for the project itself. With that, I will turn it over to my colleague, Nick, to talk about the initial route identification.
Well, good evening, everybody. My name is Nick Landwehr. I'm with Metro Transit, and I'm Metro Transit's engineering lead for the project, and I have been with the project since 2015. So know a little bit about the past project, and happy to have the opportunity to continue forward here and look at some new opportunities to keep the project going. So next slide, please. What we've done as staff is, and I should probably have my caveat here that these are staff recommendations that I'm going to be pulling forward based on project principles, based on just available data right away that's out there, land uses, continuous routes through neighborhoods, and feedback that we've gotten so far. But these are just recommendations. They're for discussion. I mean, the reason we're rolling these out is to have the discussion with the community, to get input, to get feedback. Let us know if what you like. Let us know what you don't like. Let us know if we missed something or if you have some other ideas that we don't have. So these are really what we've, like as Sophia said, minimal engineering has gone into these. They're lines on a map. And there's a lot of work that we'll need to do to go forward, but we want to get some preliminary input from the community and see what people like and what they don't like. So with this, we've split the project into three areas. Area number one on the north end up in Brooklyn Park. Area number two in the center, and that kind of encompasses the Crystal, Robbinsdale area. And then area number three down in Minneapolis, and we did this for a reason. Area one, and I think we can just jump to the next slide. All of our recommendations again are based on the project principles and that's kind of the basis for everything. But area one is not affected or was not affected by freight rail. We were outside the freight rail corridor with this, and it's consistent with our project principles, and we didn't feel a need to modify this recommendation, and that's the feedback we're getting from our project partners, City of Brooklyn Park, and from folks along the alignment. It also is consistent with our principles because it retains, one of the principles we want to do is retain as much of the old alignment as we could, or stay as consistent as we could to our commitments there. And this stays right on track with that, and it continues to another principle is to continue the same alignment, which is getting from Target Field Station up to Brooklyn Park Oak Grove Station. So this continues with that. So what is on this map in the blue is the 2013 locally preferred alternative, and that's which goes up West Broadway. What we're looking at for the most part on all these alignments is trying to be at grade with the train to make sure that we'll stay on the roadway. If need be, if we can't get around or if we have obstacles, we'll look at a structure, whether it's a bridge or a tunnel. But the most efficient and most cost effective and probably the easiest for our customers is an at grade transit because they can get right to it. So This was center running at grade along West Broadway Avenue. We have 4 stations identified in this region. What's not shown on this map on the very north end is we have an operations and maintenance facility that's designed to maintain the vehicles that would run along this alignment. So on the north side, up by one of the major destinations up there is Oak Grove Station, where Target has their northern campus, and there's a great opportunity in the city of Brooklyn Park to redevelop, or not redevelop, but to develop the area because it's undeveloped. As we go down a little bit south, there's 93rd Avenue Station, and there's a lot of businesses, a lot of industry in that area, and that would serve jobs with that station. A little farther south, we go down to 85th Station here, and the station, as it's located, is right next door to North Hennepin Community College. So a great destination to get the students and faculty and folks visiting that campus or going to school there or teaching there. Also, Hennepin County has a library there, and the city is working on, there's plans to work for a center for the arts in that area also. So a lot of potential there, but there's a lot of demand for ridership in that location. As you get a little bit farther south on this alignment, towards the end of this portion of the alignment, is Brooklyn Boulevard Station, and that station is next door to or close to an existing Metro transit station where there's buses going in and out, so we can make those transit connections as well as commercial opportunities and shopping as a destination. So feel this alignment is in really good shape. Next area, please. Next, we're going to roll down to Area 2, and again, Area 2 consists mostly of Crystal and the city of Robbinsdale. And on the map, in the yellow hatch portion, was our previous alignment that followed the BNSF corridor. And along that alignment, there's 3 kind of ghosted in dots that signified the stations that we had identified with that alignment. And we feel as we're going down along this, looking geographically at opportunities, there's a lot of geographical features that are kind of are a hindrance towards multiple options, like Crystal Lake, Twin Lakes, and actually the Crystal Airport too. And so to continue with our project principles, to try to commit to stick as close as we could to the existing alignment and serve those communities. Really, what came out of here, out of our recommendation, is Bottineau Boulevard, County Road 81, and that's shown in the black. So on the very north end, we tie in with the alignment up in Brooklyn Park from Area 1. And as we start coming down, you can see the black and the gold are right next to each other because County Road 81 is right adjacent to the Freight Railroad corridor in this location. So with this alignment on the very north end at 63rd, that we feel that we can continue to serve that 63rd Avenue park and ride that's in that location and continue with the station in that location, or a station next to that location in County Road 81. A little bit farther down, kind of in the middle of the screen, at Bass Lake Road is another opportunity to serve the city of Crystal. City of Crystal, that's access to their kind of business district in there. So again, we're very close to the freight rail corridor in this area, serving that intersection of Bass Lake Road and County Road 81. And this is another excellent location for a station that serves Crystal, the shopping, the Becker Park that's right next door to that also. As we start going a little bit farther south on this alignment, we begin to diverge from the freight rail corridor as we go into Robbinsdale, and it becomes a little bit different there. We're on the north side of Highway 100. County Road 81 is a 6-lane road. As we get south of 100, we get into the city of Robbinsdale, more of their downtown or close to their downtown area. We tighten it up to a 4-lane road, 2 lanes in each direction in this area, and we're going through their city. So we'll have to look at how the alignment fits through there, how we fit within the existing community business infrastructure in that roadway. And we have some opportunities to explore how alignment works through this area of 81, and start exploring, what station or stations that could be built in this location to serve the city of Robbinsdale. As we start getting down a little bit farther, stay on this slide, please. As we get down towards where you see the green and the orange coming together at the bottom of the screen, that's where North Memorial Hospital campus is. And this is one of the opportunities that we have with resetting this or taking a look at a new alignment to get away from the freight rail. Because before we'd have a lot of comments from folks to say, can you get the alignment to the hospital? How do you get to the hospital? Is there some way to get to the hospital? I've heard it so many times in meetings, and this is now the opportunity to serve the hospital, to potentially get a station around that area and serve the people that work there, the people that are going there for their visits. So this is a great opportunity with this one. So now we can go to the next slide. Now we're going to move down into Area 3, and Area 3 is again down in the North Minneapolis area, and it gives us more opportunities there. It's not so clear what the option is. There are more opportunities, and so we needed to look for corridors that were continuous, because you don't want to be turning zigzagging all over with the train. You really need kind of a continuous corridor that it's easier to access everything. But another thing that we need to look at in this area of North Minneapolis was right-of-way widths. What's the available right-of-way out there that we can build a light rail alignment and not have serious detrimental effects to residents and businesses in the area. So we started taking a look at that, and this map shows in the green colors where we feel that there's plenty of right-of-way in there that we can build a light rail alignment or guideway through there. And then as we start going down through the color spectrum, yellow gives us that opportunity also. But as we start getting into the darker orange and red, those are right-of-ways that just really aren't wide enough to get the light rail in there to maintain traffic on there and not seriously affect the existing neighborhood and community. So let's move to the next slide. Another factor that we looked at is land use in the area. Where are the densities of both residential and of commercial in the area, so we're serving the most destinations and the most ridership. And this map starts to kind of show out or detail out where that density is, and you can see along West Broadway and Lowry Avenue is where most of the density is in this location. Another thing we don't show in these maps, though, is we also want to be complementary to our existing transit system out there, and with C line going up Penn Avenue, and soon to start construction on Emerson Fremont for the D line, we needed to take that into account too. We want to be complementary with those corridors and not compete with them. They should work together as a system. So this is the rollout map for area number 3, or Area 3. So West Broadway, as we get down to it, West Broadway in green is a route that we're recommending to look at and pursue our exploration on that, as well as the Lowry Avenue route that's in orange. So that's Lowry Avenue from Washington to Lowry Avenue. And how we get to either one of these routes out of downtown Minneapolis from Target Field Station down in that lower right-hand corner, that's where there's more challenges, but a lot of different opportunities. So we show quite a few different what we're calling links in this area, and how we get to either one of either West Broadway route or the Lowry route could be through one of these links or a combination of links as we go through. So this map that's on the screen now gives us a little bit better perspective of what we're working in this section of town, of the businesses, how built out it is, and the challenges that we're going to have to get out of there. So in that lower right hand corner again is Target Field Station, and the navy link or the blue link that's shown there comes off of the Target Field Station, and it comes out similar to how we had on the previous alignment. where we came off of the station, we dropped down at grade to the intersection of 7th Street and Olson Memorial Highway right there. Previous alignment, we continued down Olson Memorial Highway, but on this link option, we turn and go up 7th Street. We follow 7th Street over to 94, and then every one of these options, we need to get over or Highway 90 or I-94 in each location. So whether we use an existing bridge structure or we build a new bridge structure or a combination of both, that's something we'll have to look at with these links. But that blue link, we cross over I-94, and it shows it continuing up that 94 right away on the west side, all the way up to West Broadway Avenue. Another option would be to follow that blue link. We get over to the green link that's by Plymouth Avenue, and that's Lyndale Avenue, going from between Plymouth Avenue and West Broadway, and following that up to West Broadway. Some more out of the box ideas that we've come up with are the pink link that comes off of Target Field Station, and in this location it'd likely be a structure, a long structure that kind of weaves through the existing Metro Transit Haywood campus, diagonally cuts over to right away that's alongside the 3rd, 4th Street ramps, and the pink here shows it continuing along that right away and then crossing over to the green link over at Lyndale and Plymouth. And again, that portion would likely be a very long structure to get along and over to that area. Another option with the pink link is to also, we could come down to at grade at 10th Avenue, and this is where we get onto the red link, and then turn the corner on red link, follow red link over to Washington Avenue, and that red link could either take us to West Broadway with a structure over I-94 to West Broadway, or continue up Washington Avenue to Lowry. So those are the link options and the routes that we're recommending as staff to go forward with, and we're looking forward to discussion on this and just feedback.
So with that, we're really beginning the discussion and looking to the community to really validate if these options seem right. Are we missing anything? Is there anything else that we should consider? What's really resonating? As you look at these options, what are your concerns? What opportunities do you see? And kind of where would kind of the desire for station locations. We're also seeking feedback on our evaluation goals. It's part of the survey and something that we will want to bring forward into the project. So in addition to all the feedback that you give us here tonight, we'll save the chat, the meeting is recorded. If you want to continue to engage post this meetings, there's multiple ways to do so. You can leave a comment on our interactive map. You can really scroll into a various area and put a very specific comment, various places. You can take our survey. We greatly encourage you to do so, or encourage your neighbors that weren't able to attend tonight to do so as well. You can provide a comment directly to me or into our online comment form. Often folks want to send attachments. Got a couple today, and that is the way to do so. And any materials that you need, whether you want to listen again to this meeting or look at some maps, just visiting our project website is the way to go. Also really want to extend that we really want to come out and talk to you in smaller group or even larger group settings, depending. So if you have a block club meeting, a circle, some Boy Scout troop, a synagogue meeting, whatever it is, we would really like to come and talk to you. So that invitation is on the table, and my contact information is already in chat as well. Want to kind of also introduce this because it is part of our survey, and just want to make sure everybody kind of sees it. Is we're really starting to build out our evaluation goals. So right now we're asking for feedback on these. We'll also develop a set of criteria that kind of tick out under them, and then a full evaluation matrix that we'll bring forward when we talk about the project. So a lot of this was developed as part of our previous environmental work that we did on the project, but we've updated it, and specifically want to call out that these two bullets at the bottom used to be one. And just already hearing preliminary feedback from the community in our initial engagement efforts really pulled out the the goal of advancing regional racial equity and working towards reducing regional racial disparities as something that we really wanted to achieve specifically and evaluate. With that, I will turn it over to my colleague Sam to kind of talk about next steps, and then we will open it up for discussion. There's already a couple comments in chat that we can get to.
Great. Thank you, Sophia. And thanks for hanging in there, folks. Promise you we are not going to continue to talk. We really do want to hear your thoughts on what was shared tonight and really engage with you. So just want to highlight a couple of things. I think we would be remiss if we didn't. I love our engineers. They're fantastic and they have incredible solutions to everything. They also recognize, as well as the project team, that we are doing these projects in communities that have visions that see this both as a benefit and potentially as an impact. So although we are sharing a lot of our conceptual sort of designs with you this evening and looking for feedback, we know we're not doing this in just a vacuum. So Sophia just talked a little bit about the project goals, and we will continue to develop some objectives and criteria as we move forward, because we want to make sure we're measuring the right things and providing the information to everybody engaged around the virtual table and who we will be meeting and working with, and ultimately policymakers as they make some decisions, that we are truly selecting and working on the best possible solution for transportation for the communities we look to serve. You heard Nick and Dan talk a little bit about the conceptual engineering, but we also know that there's two areas that are of deep concern of community members. One in that lower left-hand corner, it's titled Community Benefits. And we just want to recognize right now that what we have been hearing, even before any routes were put on a map, is that there is an important need for all of us, both as the project team, as policymakers of the organizations that we represent, and community members, that we get around and really begin to think about what does this project mean in terms of anti-displacement and encouraging equitable development, and really with the goal of building wealth. We don't have the solutions for that right now. It is a conversation we want to step into and be a true partner in. So I just want to recognize that that is also a pathway as we talk about all of the good work that we need to do with the project, that this is also a piece that we will be working on and be working with the community. I also just want to talk a little bit about the lower right-hand box as well, is that, as Sophia shared with you in the beginning, this project had a different alignment, and it did bring commitments of some investments with that original project. Most of that along Olson Memorial Highway and actually into Golden Valley as well, where some of the improvements the project also brought were improvements to safety, providing an opportunity to connect communities in a different way that they haven't been connected. More example, and just another sort of investment in a community. Those things are not there anymore with some of the routes that you saw tonight. We do not want to just leave that at all by the wayside. We want to still continue to bring that into our discussion with this project. That how do we honor those previous commitments? How do we really work collectively with other organizations, other agencies, other communities to really make that vision still hold true today? So I just want to take 1 second to just mention those two things, and you're not hearing about them a lot now because we're kind of just getting around them and making sure that we've got all the partners sort of identified that can help us with that. It's going to take us a little bit longer to kind of get through that, but are two pieces that are critically important as part of this project as well. So with that, I will turn it back to Sophia, who's going to lead us through tonight's discussion.
Thanks, Sam. And for everybody, there's two ways that you can come and engage with us now, which is to raise your hand, and we'll kind of go between the chat and raised hands. If you prefer speaking or writing, whichever one is the way to go. And so to kick off our questions, one is from Council Member Terry Parks in Brooklyn Park, asking about our bus connectivity plans. So just kind of highlighting that sometimes there's not as many east-west connections, especially in that part of town. and wanting to have more detail about how we bring that into the conversation.
Yeah, Terry, on the bus plans, as we get farther along in the project, we will start to work with our service planning for Metro Transit and work on that connectivity and identify where those areas are. I think some of the opportunities are, specifically like Bass Lake Road, where that continues over to the Brooklyn Center Transit Center, or even up at 63rd Avenue, where there's some opportunities. As we get down into Minneapolis, on both Lowry and on the West Broadway route, there's opportunities to connect in with the BRT projects that on Penn Avenue or on Emerson and Fremont. So, but a lot of that planning doesn't happen until we're closer or into closer to opening the project. But we continue the conversation from this stage all the way through.
Okay, that's right now the questions that we have on deck. So gonna give it a minute for folks to think if they want to ask anything else.
I had a question.
I can't tell who's talking, but Mike, I believe. Is it Mike?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
yeah, that's me. Thanks. My question was around building this route. I'm assuming that trying to avoid building like over highways and or major streets will help the process of the line become a little bit easier, I guess, smoother and faster than having to take more, I guess, I don't know, complicated routes, I guess. Is that or does that not matter since the line has to be built regardless, and that's kind of already part of the plan, like they're gonna have to take certain routes that might be a little bit obstructive or over certain busy roads, et cetera, et cetera.
That's an interesting piece. I mean, I think the key message here is that, or the key thinking here is that this is a fully developed, fully built up area, right? So there isn't like open land with which, I mean, this is, in the 1800s, the railroad found ways to, lay track down and build it, and then communities developed around it. We're in a much different time frame now. This area is built up, and so therefore, assuming that one thing we don't want to do is develop a route that doesn't utilize an existing right-of-way and buys private property all along it, we are looking at, and the reason we've identified kind of these routes is because they are in existing roadway rights-of-way. The north end is in West Broadway up in Brooklyn Park. That whole kind of center area is along Highway 81, in Robbinsdale and Crystal, and then down below in Minneapolis, it's in and part of West Broadway and Lowry. Now, that doesn't mean it's easy to build in those streets. It just means that it is an area where light rail could be built as a transportation improvement within transportation right-of-way. So the challenges become, how do we serve the other things that those right-of-ways serve in terms of access to businesses for vehicles, pedestrian movements, bicycle movements, north-south through traffic, parking? How do you serve those things in the available right-of-way and LRT as well? Is there enough room? Where does there have to be widening and some of those pieces? So yes, mostly and primarily we are looking at available roadway right-of-ways to build this. The challenge is, how do we make that work?
For sure. Yeah. It gives you much more wiggle room when you're going down avenues and spaces that already kind of have that some of that spaciousness, available to utilize. Yeah. Okay. Cool. That answers my question for sure.
Okay, we have a couple questions coming in on chat. Before we switch to them, wanted to also acknowledge the other hand raised. Might be Lashella, but it comes up as A. Sims.
That's me, Alicia.
Alicia, not different. Welcome to the meeting.
Okay, so I'm a senior and I live in Hamilton Manor, which is in Weber, Camden. So I've got the train yard right, or the many train tracks going right by my window. Well, I mean, it's far enough away that it doesn't bother me. I like it, in fact. And so I'm really intrigued by this idea of the Lowry connection there, as opposed to continuing on down Broadway. And I have a couple of thoughts about that. One is that they're trying really hard to do some redevelopment and housing along West Broadway. And I'm not convinced if I were to buy or rent an apartment on Broadway and it was as it is today with the idea that they want more commercial, that I would love the idea of a train being right there on Broadway Avenue. I could be wrong, but I'm not sure. Like when I think about University Avenue, for example, in St. Paul, where there was lots of established business along there, I know that there has been some residential development, but it's more set back than the proposed developments that are along West Broadway currently. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is the transportation system that we have now, and I'm a bus rider mostly. I have limited mobility right now. But I'm really familiar with the buses all over town. I take them everywhere. But that Lowry route is that's basically the only way we have to go from north to northeast rather than going downtown, which back in the day, it wasn't so bad, but now it's getting to be more difficult and downtown is getting more deserted and feels less safe. And because we have a lack of a lot of entertainment and places to eat and upper scale grocery stores and things like that in North Minneapolis, it's really nice to be able to go over to Northeast. And, you know, there's a Lund's over there and there's a lot of restaurants. And so I love this Lowry jog over there to be able to avoid having to go all the way from where I am downtown, change buses, and then go back to my Northeast destination. So there you go.
Thank you. Those are all very good considerations and points for us. Dan, Sam, Nick, anything you would like to add to the conversation?
No, I mean, I think that feedback is part of what, you know, we want to see in terms of trade-offs, where some of the benefits are. I mean, we certainly heard about benefits of what doing kind of a Lowry route can be. And, but then we also, I mean, some of the things that were mentioned about what might happen in terms of, you know, construction of additional housing. I mean, some people may like that and some people may not like that. And some people may like that. They may want to live in, you know, housing that has close access to a transit station and also the ability to access local businesses as well. So those are all real good comments and good feedback.
I got a question. And this is Candy Bacon from Heritage Park. Hey.
Hi, Candy.
Hey. So back in the day when we were supposed to get the train coming down Olson, I was told there was possibility of a light rail going down Broadway. So if Broadway doesn't get it and you do go down Lowry, is that going to happen?
So I think what the West Broadway was studied for a potential streetcar as well as BRT. So I think some of that has a, you know, further out horizon or whatnot. Any other comments?
I mean, so Sophie, are we stuck with just the BRT going down Olson, or are we going to get something kind of cool too later on?
So on Olson Memorial Highway, you know, we do have Sea Line. We have some temporary stations there. You know, we need to have a discussion about how to kind of work with work with that. You know, if there would be light rail down Highway 55, not in the discussion really right now, but I think there's a lot of desire to see potentially some BRT options, and also just, you know, part of our project work, you know, some of the connectivity conversations that we had on Olson, bringing some of that forward as well. And Dan, you're unmuted. Did you want to add to that?
Well, I mean, Candy, I think it's hard to say. I mean, at the time when we were evolving LRT, Blue Line Extension Project, to go Olson Memorial Highway to the railroad corridor, Metro Transit was continuing to, at that time, evaluate and move forward arterial BRT, which resulted in the C line now on Penn and the D line coming on Emerson Fremont. And there was a study to look at to build a streetcar on West Broadway as part of that. And so that was on some level of planning. And then all of a sudden now there's a shift to say, oh, wait a minute, if we can't use the railroad alignment, then what if we built LRT somewhere else? And one of those places to potentially build LRT is now West Broadway. If that happens, then I think it shifts the gears again and says, okay, so what kind of an improvement makes sense along Highway 55? Is it BRT? Is it something greater? What happens in the western suburbs? How does that connect in the future? Does the state intend to want to build out more of the LRT system? So I think those discussions are always available. Right now, I can say that, you know, at Hennepin County, Commissioner Fernando is definitely interested in continuing the discussion about advancing both the LRT project on one of these two alignments and potentially advancing a BRT project along Highway 55 as well. So no, that's not an LRT line, but it may be improved transit service with an improved roadway on Highway 55 as well. So.
And to some of this other, you know, Metro Transit has to kind of work together in the sandbox of improving transit options. And we've had our Network Next program, which was to kind of identify our next set of arterial bus rapid transit. So kind of you're on street, and they've identified the near term, but you know, that question of what comes after that, and once this project gets set, if there's other things that need to kind of come back online, that's all part of the conversation. So hope that kind of gets to it, Candy. I think there's a lot of conversation to be had on a lot of fronts on this question.
This is Councilmember Chambliss. Can I remark a little bit?
Please.
Yeah, I had a question actually, and it kind of ties to, I think, the previous speaker's question, and that is, while we are talking about transit development, this is a great opportunity to talk about our state and municipal policymakers about how we want our cities to be developed. And there are some nice things that we can have in our neighborhoods that are not necessarily connected to a transit-oriented development, but that's something that could be brought up with your city in terms of, okay, now that we're looking at the region in terms of development, what can we do to make the other options that are being considered to be more beneficial for residents and people going through as a regional project.
Thank you, Council Member. I'll switch to some questions in the chat. We have a few waiting, and I do want to apologize that everybody can't see them. Again, the setting's set to everybody being able to chat publicly, but for some reason it's been glitching on us as we've been going through these meetings. So one is from specific to Robbinsdale and downtown Robbinsdale. Has kind of this person's asking about a specific location. So has the Robbins Center parking lot been considered as a station location? And part of the reasoning for that is to get a pedestrian bridge that would help connect the two halves of Robbinsdale and the city center to some of that other and avoid some of the major hurdles with foot traffic. So that is the comment, kind of two pedestrian bridges and station locations.
So the answer in terms of has the Robbins Center parking lot been considered as a station location? To date, no. It's an interesting suggestion. We spent on the previous alignment, we knew that the station location was likely to be there next to just south of 42nd, over by the Hubbard building on the BNSF side. If LRT is on Highway 81, the idea and the desire would be to have a downtown Robbinsdale station. But whether that would be at 42nd or at 41st or at 40th or somewhere in between any of those streets, where it would be left side, right side, in the center, still unknown. We've been working with the city on starting that conversation. We'll continue. We'll be doing some workshops with city and downtown businesses and hopefully with the council as well to kind of discuss where is the best landing spot for a station that takes into account. One of the things you mentioned is something that does have to be taken into account downtown, and that's the geography. There's the walls and the way the walls work there along Town Center and along Robbins Center is all part of how that'll all fit in. So that will be an exercise we tackle in where's the best spot for that station.
Next question is about structure. So along West Broadway, are we considering elevated or tunnels?
Along West Broadway, again, I think our first desire is to look at grade running, meaning on the street at street level. But we haven't taken anything off the table. If we're in an area where we're pinched or it just doesn't work at grade, then we will consider structures in those locations, whether that's a tunnel or a bridge.
I mean, I think for us, the question is, where's the best location for the LRT line? Is it to come up out of downtown on some of these wiggly lines you see and then head up West Broadway? Is it to head up Washington and Lowry? If we get a good feel that one of these routes really rises as a good spot to place LRT, then I think it opens up okay, now where and how does it get constructed? Is it center running at grade? Is it elevated over certain intersections? Is it elevated over certain sections of it? Is some of it in a tunnel? Do we want to go over 94 or use existing bridges? And so that'll all be kind of, we'd like to make sure we make the decision to put LRT in the right spot and then let the challenges of building it guide elevated or underneath or at grade, rather than say, well, it doesn't fit. We don't want that to be the guiding factor as much as if we think that either of these routes are best served with an LRT line. If that's the direction we're getting from the community, then how we get it there will be part of what we analyze going forward.
Thanks, Dan. I'm going to take a couple more questions from the chat because they've been waiting a little bit, and then we have some hands raised, and we'll get to them next. So this is a two-part question, and one is just acknowledging that our Metro Transit ridership is down, and what does that mean for our project? Does it still make sense? And then second piece is our funding. Is this project funded? Are we fully funded, and how? And maybe the follow-up that'll be helpful for the group is, how do we get fully funded?
Sure, and I can take a stab and the rest of the team can jump in on that. So yes, it is no lie that ridership is down right now during a pandemic. We understand that some of our big drivers of transit, obviously our downtowns, some of our sports stadiums, they are experiencing a downturn. That is nationwide. We get that. We don't expect us to always be in this situation. So when we build these light rail projects and these major transit investments, we're doing it for multi-generations, for multi-years. These are significant investments with the hope to serve significant communities and generations to come. So we do anticipate this obviously as a little of a blip, and we might have to just modify a little this when we do some of our projections though for ridership. They're looking at horizons like into 2040, 2045. And so that's kind of based off of where the community does continue to grow. So that will inform us in terms of how we make those longer term investment for the region. Talking a little bit about funding. So we'll kind of turn a page back to the previous project. The previous project was a $1.53 billion, I will say that again, $1 billion project. And it was funded a little bit over 50% by locals. So it was funded by Minnesotans. And if that project was to move forward, really it was looking to receive a federal match for the balance and make that project 100% funded. So both with local and the federal funding. With our project, we are going to have to kind of do that process over, if you will. So when we find the route where we're able to do a little bit more of that engineering and really detail some more of those costs, that we'll know what it will take to build this project. Again, we'd need to kind of build that bank back up in terms of local and national funding sources. But our experience on these projects is sort of the first money in tends to be the local. That signals to the feds that we are serious about this project, that these are good projects to invest in, and that's what begins to leverage their funding as well. Does take a little bit of time to do that. Real recent case here is Southwest LRT, who was 2 years, a little bit over 2 years in construction before we received our federal funding commitment from the Federal Transit Administration. So the local dollars are kind of at the highest risk, but they're the ones that really jumpstart these projects and then leverage the federal investment on that. So hopefully that answers kind of both of those questions.
Yeah, I think, Sam, I would just add that, as you said, the two primary funding sources, the local funds are primarily funded with Hennepin County sales and use tax dollars. And this project for the Bottineau Blue Line Extension Light Rail project is a project within that program for being funded with Hennepin County sales and use tax dollars. That's a portion of all of the sales tax that gets spent within Hennepin County. And there's only a few projects that currently are eligible for funding within that, this Southwest being one and this project being one. So the county board obviously has taken this as a key project to advance within the program, and they've been willing to continue to fund this moving forward. And then secondly, the federal, what Sam referred to as the federal funding, the federal New Starts program is a program that brought money to Minnesota for the original Blue Line, brought money to Minnesota for Central Corridor, brought money to Minnesota for Southwest. And we've had success in that program in the past. We believe this project meets most of, and if not even better, some of the new criteria of the current administration. And we believe it's a good candidate for that continued federal funding. So no, not all completely secured yet, but well on its way to providing the need to get that funding in place.
Now, I'll just add to this answer as well, because we did have a follow-up and chat about, is downtown going to continue to be the source of places that we want to get and whatnot. And just speaking to ridership specifically in Metro Transit, while we've had a decrease, our ridership has not disappeared. We still have a lot of people making link trips all around our metro region. And some of the trends that we've seen are people riding throughout the day. So less AM, PM peaks and just general ridership. And our LRT projects, while they connect into downtown, they also connect many destinations within our alignment. So maybe you're not going to downtown, maybe you're going to the airport. Maybe you're going from Brooklyn Park to North Minneapolis or to Robbinsdale, or kind of connecting within the system, which is also very important. And since the light rail is frequent all-day service, some of that maybe less traditional ridership that we've seen in the past in terms of riding at non-peak hours. This system's already kind of set up for that. So there'll be more to come, but definitely this is a solution that probably will hold true very, very steadily into the future as a good option to expand our network. Going on from that is, we're starting to get a lot of questions both in the chat and folks with raised hands. We'll do a couple more in chat. Do we have a desired travel time between end to end? So Target Field to Oak Grove Station. What's our target?
I don't know if we have a target, Sam. I know that Oak Grove Station to downtown was like 31 minutes on the previous alignment. We have not run a estimated travel time from Oak Grove Station to downtown on any of these new routes. It's going to require us to get some stations set, and where do we want stations? Where would they be? How many would there be? Street running LRT is going to be a little different. It's not going to be, there were long sections of the previous alignment where we were on railroad right away where we will not. And so we'll be street running. I don't know that we have a target on what that should be. I think, the service is meant to be bi-directional. It serves people going both ways. It's not primarily an express route. And so I think we'll want to be able to provide, let me say this kind of weirdly, we want to be able to provide a travel time on this alignment that is not so slow that it discourages riders from being on it who may want to go long distances, while at the same time not so fast that we bypass stopping and picking people up and serving people along the route. So we need to really find that sweet spot where we're able to provide a reliable, one of the things that's nice about LRT is that sometimes I drive to work and it takes me 25 minutes and sometimes it takes me 2.5 hours. LRT generally takes the same amount of time in both directions because it's not as significantly affected by weather and by other stuff. Hopefully not a lot of other people are driving on the tracks with the trains. And so, it'll be that reliable, reasonable service that will provide, the ability to serve as many riders as possible.
One last question from chat before we go to comments and then back to chat. And this is specific to Lyndale Avenue. So our Lyndale, our kind of green link. And just asking for kind of specifics, are we thinking one track or two? Will there still be car traffic? Kind of what could that roadway configuration look like? And then if, to jog your memory a little bit, there's that pedestrian bridge kind of midway between that link. And kind of what happens to that?
Okay.
Questions? Oh, go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, I can take a stab at that. Well, we would have two tracks, so we can have a track in each direction, and that's most efficient, and we can keep our traffic on that. As we look at the right of way, there's a potential for the guideway being two tracks and at least 2 lanes of traffic, so a lane of traffic each direction, or maybe we'll look at directionally, if we could do another configuration with that. As far as I think there's going a little bit farther. There's not a lot of. There's only like 2 through across the track safely with vehicles into the neighborhoods and out. And then the bridge. We've worked around that before. It is a low bridge, so if we need to do something with that, we will. But we can go underneath. We can have a pretty low clearance to get through things, and we've built under bridges before. So we'd have to.
We go under a lot of skyways, especially in downtown St. Paul. And so in fact, we were just under that bridge today as we were out and about, and I noticed it and I looked at it actually and took note of it and thought, yeah, I don't think I'd see too much trouble getting under that bridge.
Yeah.
If we were to go on that route.
Okay, thank you. Moving to our raised hands, Jill, you are up.
Hey there. This is Jill Steinhauser. My husband and I own a business in Robbinsdale. My question is twofold. We've been told, or the public's been told, that the railroad just is saying no to the right-of-way. But how significant was it tried to work with them? I mean, did they contact, or did we, Metro Transit, contact our state senators, our representatives? I mean, how detailed or how in-depth did you get into that? And then also, has it been taken into consideration that the whole Botno route has just been redone and so much money has been put into that? Is that being taken into consideration also for this new route?
Thanks, Jill. Two really good questions. So let's start with the railroad. Since I personally was intimately involved with the work on this project with BNSF for over 5 years, I mean, I can tell you that we pulled out as many methodologies to bring BNSF to the table to discuss this with them as we could, both from an engineering side and a political side. We engaged our Washington delegation numerous times. I know I personally was in Washington at least 3 times to engage with parts of our delegation out there to work with them about moving BNSF. BNSF's lobbyists and members met out there with elected officials as well. County commissioners, Mike Opat, mayors like both Robbinsdale's and now Commissioner Lundy, former Mayor Jeff Lundy from Brooklyn Park, also spent a number of trips in DC. We contacted the governor. We worked with the governor's rail safety and Office of Rail safety to bring BNSF to the table. We went so far at Hennepin County as to engage with the idea of not sharing the corridor with BNSF, but buying the entire subdivision, buying the entire cul-de-sac, if you will, that goes from downtown Minneapolis, or from Minneapolis all the way up to Monticello, and just purchasing it outright and running LRT on there. We pulled out as many stops as we physically could find or could move with, both politically, financially, to move them, and BNSF, both from just a philosophical background, as well as, you know, the what they term as not meeting their principles, did not want to enter into an agreement for a shared corridor with LRT on that subdivision. And yes, I pointed out, you know, numerous places around the country where that has been the case, numerous areas where they have done deals in the past, and they were not budging and have not budged through several administrations of governor, through numerous administrations of both state, local, and federal elected officials. And so we finally reached a point where, upon looking at this, it just was difficult to advance this forward. Now, you bring up another good point. Secondarily, life went on and life continues to move on. And as we were working on that alignment, yes, Hennepin County reconstructed the major portion of Highway 81 from, at least certainly from downtown Robbinsdale, from Highway 100 up north of Highway 694. And so now to build LRT in a roadway that's new, yes, that's not something we desired. At the same time, you know, we're looking at, can we put LRT in there without significantly reconstructing the entire roadway as well? So many things have happened over time when we were not looking at building outside of the railroad corridor. And so now we've got to face the, can we still work within the confines of those changes as we investigate this new route?
Thank you.
With that, we'll take the next two people with their hand raised and go to the last questions in chat. So Megan, you are up. Megan, you're up and you'll want to unmute yourself. It's at the bottom of your screen. You can also press your space bar and that'll temporarily unmute you.
Oh,
there you go.
Can you hear me okay?
Now we can, yes.
Awesome. Okay, sorry about that. I'm so used to Zoom. Say, I just have a few questions concerning, I was just kind of going over some of your addendums and some of the things that you guys have available for the public to review. I was just concerned about, I just did some research on the communities that the light rail will be going through. I pulled the stats on the average medium income per household going through those communities. In the average household income is about 28,575 would be the average. I'm just concerned about as far as what the cost of the ticket will be as far as riding on the light rail. And if you guys offer any, let's see, like I know that you guys offer TAP for people that, will that be on this light rail as far as that being available for lower income households?
Yes, that is actually a very good point, Megan. We are still implementing our TAP program, and to the extent that we can continue to sign up more residents and also renew the TAP membership, and our team is really trying to expand eligibility as well. So you know, as we would get closer to opening day on these lines, and we, in addition to our ongoing efforts just to reach out regionally to sign people up for our transit assistance program. That would be part of our program of things to accomplish. And so very much, yes. You know, as we've had lines come online, we've focused some of our engagement staff efforts on getting people signed up for TAP and trained in how to do so. Because we have our TAP coordinator and supporting the efforts to get people signed up. With that as well, you know, our LRT is just our normal, follows our normal fare structure. So, you know, we're few use out from opening day, but you know, whenever our fare is at that time for our local service, but the light rail would be, as well as, you know, kind of any of your transfers, holding, and whatnot. And you know, that's we really, when we think of these major transit investments and wanting to invest, the long-term operation costs and keeping our fares reasonable and affordable for people are a very important consideration of Metro Transit, kind of always. So that is definitely part of the equation, because we want people to be able to ride our system and to make it as affordable as possible. And you know, ongoing efforts on that front. And again, TAP is Transit Assistance Program. Any other comments with that? Otherwise, we can go to Mike. Oh, sorry.
I just have one more question. Who do you project the light rail will benefit the most, as far as, is this targeted towards people that are working downtown, or as far as bringing in revenue to commuting businesses surrounding the areas of the drop-off stations? Also, my concern is as far as people that are using the light rail, will there be bus stations kind of connected to the drop-off station portions? I just know sometimes I was just looking at your map here as far as the stations are, the drop-off sites. As far as people that will be using the light rail, the accessibility of being able to, you know, sometimes you have to use a bus to get to your next destination point. What do you guys plan on doing as far as development with that?
So to tackle kind of both parts of your question, the first being kind of who is this intended to serve? You know, this isn't a commuter line to get you just from the end to end. this is meant to benefit kind of everything in between. So it's that kind of, to Dan's point before, we're trying to thread that needle between having, really efficient transit time, so that you can get, a lot of different places in a competitive time, while also picking up and serving many of our corridor riders. As we look at various metro solutions kind of on the Metro Transit network, you have our local bus that, kind of stops every block. You have some of our modified bus routes that stop, kind of every other block, plus minus. And then you have a lot of our metro systems. So that's our BRT and our LRT. And you are looking for, with our BRT, that quarter mile. With LRT, it's a quarter mile or more. More to that, kind of getting close to that mile range or less, kind of in that range. And so you do also consider your local bus service and what that provides. And so to all of your connecting service, and that kind of that overlying bus plan is part of something that we would need to look at as we get ready to open this line. So both your kind of east, west, south connections, depending on where you are, and in other needs that might be within the corridor themselves. Nick or Dan?
Well, Sophia, I think what I'd also add is, because LRT service is both directions, right? We would hope that a lot of what LRT serves are riders getting to jobs. And so the difference here is that it isn't all about how many people can come from suburbs or other areas and get downtown. It's just as easy that people in St. Paul could get to jobs in Robbinsdale, Crystal, or Brooklyn Park, or that folks can get from downtown to businesses in North Minneapolis along the route, or different destinations there. People that live in North Minneapolis could now access both northbound, say, North Hennepin Community College as a school, or the University of Minnesota by going over to the Green Line. So it's really meant to serve not only regular transit users, but folks that want to access jobs, folks that want to access school and students as well. And there's a lot of destinations along here that connect into the system that allow that to happen.
Dan, if I could just maybe add to that, what we didn't show for you tonight, and our apologies, is that system map. So when you think about how we can link those trips, like folks from Eden Prairie when Southwest is up and running, or Hopkins, that folks can come into the communities that we have here, and destinations. There's wonderful destinations that folks either have for just pure enjoyment and really attracting. So being part of this network really opens up also the possibilities of bringing other folks and having them come into communities, having them dine at your restaurants. Like Dan said, work at some of these great places to be at, in education as well. So as we look about this, we look at this is really connecting to the region, and connecting the region to all the wonderful attractions that are here as well. And we are seeing that the more you keep adding legs to a system, the more and more folks start using transit and really see this sort of combination of benefits as well.
Megan, did you have any additional questions? Don't want to cut you off.
Sorry, I don't want to take too much of your time. There is one more. I've just done some research as far as statistics go between the crime rate on buses compared to the light rail. I know when the light rail was first established, there was significant increase in crime in the areas that it was established. I am just concerned as far as the safety goes, and how you guys will address that when or if the light rail is established in our community.
Sure. It may be to start, that we have a lot of safety is a priority for Metro Transit, and both our stations and our LRTs come with various safety features. Sorry, Dan, were you saying, somebody said something? Don't want to cut them off. So part of and we also hire basically folks to patrol our system specific to the line as it gets established. And really what we like to do, we did this a lot with Sea Line as well, is have general community conversations about safety and what the communities want to see, because often what we see on our system is not so different than what is going on beyond our system, right? We are a public gathering spot. And really, you know, there is that kind of, while there's kind of both things, kind of two things going on at once is sorry, I'm trying to trip over my words. I get stuttery sometimes, and then we know, for example, talking to our riders on an ongoing basis, especially women, that there are often concerns that we want to continue to address and continue the conversation. Transit overall, though, because of a lot of our security features, not the best place to just do stuff, right? So you have folks checking in, you have cameras, you have various elements, lighting, that are really designed to focus on safety, as well as the content, like even on our station platforms, considering how people access and move around.
Sophia, I was just going to add, and Nick and Dan could just add a little bit, and I know there's probably a couple more questions we want to get to before the evening, but you know, Megan, you do raise an important point, and it is something that we do take we take seriously, definitely. And safety starts early on, and even early in the design and engineering, where a station's at, how it's placed, how can we have eyes on the road both at the station and back out, and what's those walkways, how you're able to access different parts of the community as soon as you get off of those platforms. Those are, as Sophia said, discussions that we do have with community members. So when we get to those station locations in particular, that will also be a focus of our conversations.
So we're getting close to time. Want to take one more question from the raised hand, and then we have a couple more in chat that we'll get to pretty quick. So just knowing that we're getting close to the end of time, probably can do just a couple more. Mike, you're up.
All right. Thanks, Sophia. By the way, great questions that I've been hearing thus far. Some really good stuff that I've also had in mind, and some things that I hadn't thought of before. So it's good to kind of hear a good swath from everybody. I had two pieces. One for more clarification and two based off of that. The current route that we're discussing, is the priority to make it light rail versus, because I was hearing BRT as well, which is, I'm assuming it's bus rapid transit versus light rail transit.
Right, the goal is to implement an LRT project. Bus rapid transit is also part of our Metro network, but the goal for the Blue Line extension is light rail.
Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, cool. Just wanted to make sure I caught that correctly. I wanted just to add, as far as the light rail benefits that I would see, especially Minnesota and its weather. I heard one of you guys bring it up earlier, that the transit time from a light rail standpoint versus like a busing schedule would help alleviate some of those crunch points with weather and timing, and actually taking traditional road routes, which I think will overall better suit the community. And I think, especially in thinking that this is going to be built for the future ahead, I think pushing the light rail idea forward and kind of planning for that future transit line will just overall help, I think, not only the transit for maybe people that are working in and out of the city, but also connecting local businesses that are more in the suburban area to the city, to bring in more just like value and revenue to continue forward. So like, for an example, Robbinsdale being the way I view it, like a budding downtown city for like these newer upper scale like restaurants. I see the light rail as an opportunity to make that a real popular, like even a more popular destination for people that not only live within the Robbinsdale area, but people that maybe that live in the city or things like that, or in other suburbs to get easier access to. So I believe that's the only pieces I have, besides the fact that I was hearing about the Lowry. Somebody mentioned the Lowry line, and I do like the idea of diverting toward another, popular Minneapolis city as like a better route for like recreational and I guess like tourist transit and things like that. So I do like that idea as well.
Thank you, Mike. All very good points and feedback. We are getting very close to time. We'll just take a couple extra minutes, hopefully, to kind of get through some of the ones that have been waiting in chat for a while. But feel free kind of to drop off as you need. And I'm just going to, before we kind of take the next questions, just kind of put this on our screen for everybody. It has our website and all the resources that are available for you to continue to connect with us. So sign up for our project update. To continue to stay connected with us, please reach out to staff. We would love to talk to you further, and as well as getting any of the materials. So with that, just in case folks need to drop, we'll take a couple last questions. So one is to our, and we just have a few more in chat, like I think it's 3. So we'll get to those before we say adieu for the evening. And asking, this is to a station in Crystal. So are we planning a station in Crystal, and is it a drop station? What might be the features of it?
Well, where we'd had previously a station in Crystal was at Bass Lake Road along the BNSF route, and so we would propose, we're proposing that likely then we would similarly have a Highway 81 Bass Lake Road station. So that would be where we are proposing there to be the station that would be in Crystal. Was that the question, Sophia, about the Crystal station? Was there one about, did you say something about drop off or parking?
Yes, I think the question kind of gets to, is it a drop off station? Is there parking? What are your various ways to access?
So again, I think what we'd had before and what we'll continue to work on with the city of Crystal is it was a station that would be served for both walk up, and that was a key way to get there. Bus connections as well. It would connect Bass Lake Road to Brooklyn Center Transit Center. So bus connections would be another way. And we'd formerly been proposing a park and ride lot there with about 170 spaces, and we would look at the continued viability of that as well. I would also mention that while it's technically in Brooklyn Park, the 63rd station and 81 is very close to the residential areas on the north side of Crystal. There's a park and ride structure there that formerly was built by Metro Transit at 63rd and Highway 81, and we'd likely have a station there as well.
Okay, moving us on, since we're kind of towards the end, how are we going to select and refine the link segments in Area 3? And there's a second part of this question, which I'll actually take first, which is, how are we going to communicate with folks along these links, especially if they're direct property impacts? Are we going to go door to door, leave flyers, etc.? We need to do further communications on all of these options, and we'll continue to do so as we move through the project. If we are identifying direct property impacts, we will be reaching out to those locations specifically. We can do that both through door knocking, flyering, all that kind of stuff, but we will want to talk to folks if we identify direct impacts. And overall, we're still in the phase where we want your neighbors and everybody to know about our project and to be able to provide feedback as we refine. So to the first part, kind of going back to that timeline and narrowing down options and selecting them.
I guess the narrowing down options part of it is these open houses to get feedback on from the community. We'll also continue to work with our project partners. In this case, it would be the city of Minneapolis. We'll work with MnDOT because we're going over their infrastructure, and the county on this also, the county transportation side. So, well, it'll be a combination, and then the lengths will also be determined by, you know, which route we would go forward with also. So there's this is the beginning of identifying what those are. Maybe there's more routes, maybe there's less routes than we're showing, but we'll move forward with that and start narrowing down as we go through this process.
And to that, it gets to that evaluation piece. And then our draft and final reports, kind of being able to speak to those specifically in terms of impacts and benefits and potential station locations, and then coming forth with recommendations for additional feedback. So part of these discussions and talking directly to your neighbors, as Nick said, really helps us do that. Okay. We've actually pretty much covered all of the questions. The last thing in chat was just it's kind of a part question, part comment, and that's really just a resident wanting to highlight the benefits to reach work in school and how critical it is for folks to have connections to major things like hospitals, clinics, shopping centers, etc. And really encouraging the project team to focus on how we maintain that mix of affordable housing and helping to reach other community goals like lessening food deserts and providing different options. So just wanted to make sure that was kind of shared out with everybody.
That's great feedback, Sophia. I mean, a lot of what we're trying to do here is provide a capital improvement project and transportation investment that connects people to where they need to go and provides those opportunities for community growth and services that are all part of making this a great place to live. And so hopefully that's a mission right there that you just read. That's part of what we want to try to attain by doing this project.
So with that, I think we've gotten to all of our questions. Again, if you have comments, questions, would like to talk to us further, would like us to meet with your neighbors, please reach out. Again, there's multiple ways to connect with us. Dan, Sam, any closing comments?
Just want to thank everybody again for their time. We heard some really good questions, some really good thoughts that make us think, and that's exactly what we need. We don't have all the answers, and what we're looking to is kind of leaning into solving these together. So thank you for saying some of the things that you've shared today with us, and we're going to continue to work on it. But this is not the end of our conversations by a long run, so please stay with us. Lots of ways to do that, and just want to say thank you again for joining us tonight, and looking forward to staying connected as we move forward. So with that, I'll toss that over to Dan to say thank you as well.
Agreed. Thanks for your time. Thanks for spending some time with us. I know some of you have been at a number of these sessions, and we really appreciate it. And this will all help guide us to build something, hopefully that is really serving the needs that are out there. So thanks, everyone, and have a good night. Have a good evening.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.